Dear learners, welcome to today's session. So Professor Mohanty is present now. So today maybe she is going to present block 6.
No,
So I mean
4.
I
Block
want to
4.
repeat 4.
Yeah.
Okay,
Last
but
part of
repeat.
the block 4.
Okay, the
Yeah.
repeated effort. The students are not joining much anyway. Not a issue. So what are the reason? Maybe it's not interesting for you or what, I don't know. Because diaspora paper is little bit, I mean, typical kind of things. Maybe you are not all from the sociology background. So I don't know. You are finding, I mean, what kind of things you are getting from this class. Are you I mean, is interesting or not? That also I don't know much about that, because the students' suggestion or view or how you feel, I mean, nothing comes from your side. So that's why you are unable to know how interesting or not. Anyway, so I mean, with these words, I welcome to ma'am from today's session. So now I hand over the session to Dr. Mohanty. Ma'am, you start your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, students. Today we'll take up again your block 4 and the remaining unit 16, 17, and 18 from the block. And I'll just try to share the PPT with you right now. Give me a moment. Yeah. Can you see the PPT? Even this also you will not respond, I know. So let me proceed. So basically, in these units, we will be only, yesterday's session was about the government intervention, both at the international and the national level. It was more or less the political scenario, the development on the part of the states and the inter-governmental organizations regarding the diaspora. যদি ওড়িয়ারে আউথরে কহিবি যে लास्ट क्लास आमे जहाँ डिस्कस करथले जहाँ पॉलिटिकल डेवलपमेंट हेछि डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी को नेकी आम देश रे आ अन्य देश मानकरे ता बादे हमर जो सब फोरम्स अछि इंटरनेशनल फोरम्स अछि इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अछि डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी को नेकी इंटरनेशनल माइग्रेशन को नेकी से माने को प्रकार भाबे पॉलिसीज फ्रेम करछंती आजिर सब्जेक्ट दैट इज कंप्लीटली अबाउट द सोशियो कल्चरल लिंकेजेस द सोशियो कल्चरल फॉर्मेशन डायस्पोरा रो प्रेजेंस पे कौन सोशियो कल्चरल चेंजेस आसुची हम सोसाइटी रे बोथ इन आवर लाइव्स एंड इन देयर लाइव्स we will be taking a look at that, and it's very interesting because some of the themes, I believe, as Santosh sir told, that most of you do not belong to maybe sociology background. There are certain concepts that you have to be very clear about before taking up these materials, but these materials have not been framed in that line. I believe in your previous semesters the conceptual clarity should have come to you. For example, today we'll be talking about the very issues of nationalism and with the presence of ICT, how this idea of nationalism is getting reconceptualized. So there are many socio-cultural new formations that has come up with the strong presence of the diaspora. I'll just start with the socio-cultural linkages that has developed. This is from the unit 16. I'll start with that, and I have actually tried to merge, interconnect each of these units, and the single slide is actually, it tries to comprise all the units that we'll be covering today. That is unit 16, 17, and 18. So what I'll start that you will see that the Indian diaspora, it was a result of colonialism. We have discussed it again and again, and it was almost during the 19th century when people started moving out of this country as a part of the indentured labor force. They became a part of the international labor community. That was the first connectivity through capitalism. That was the first, global connectivity that as Indians we could make. Because prior to that, we may talk great about our prosperity, about our trading relations, say it with Southeast Asia or with East Africa, sorry, West Africa. It has always been there. But when you are talking about this diaspora community, this indentured labor, the Indian laborers were being sent out globally to all parts of the world. And yesterday, we actually discussed about the crisis that this community could face because of the kind of situation, the political developments that change their position, their status in their host societies, and how the Indian state responded to it. But today's in today's class, we will be actually talking about this present scenario, the socio-cultural linkages that has been a product of globalization. And today you will see that globalization has made a major change among the community itself. And the first important point is the rise of transnationalism. So basically, in your first class, I told you that the concept of nationalism is about a feeling, a sentiment. Nationalism ta gote feeling. को प्रकार feeling ना, you feel a kind of, it's a sense of we feeling जे I belong to this place, गोटे territory सहित सबबळे associated ହେଇଥାଏ. ତେଣୁ as an Indian, you have certain feelings of nationalism. ତେଣୁ ସବୁବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ community ଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ territory ସହିତ associated ହେଇଥାଏ. ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ community ବିଷୟରେ ବି କହିଲି first class ରେ. community ର ଗୋଟେ important trait ଥିଲା we feeling, second ଥିଲା territoriality. से गाँटा तुम कम्युनिटी हे पारे, तुम जो लोकालिटी रे रहउछ सेटा तुम कम्युनिटी हे पारे. एंड मु तुमको फर्स्ट क्लास रे कहितली बेनेडिक्ट एंडरसन कर 1983 रे गोटे बही आस्थिला, ता ना थिला इमेजिन कम्युनिटी, जोथरे कि से कहिले कि जे गोटे नेशन, गोटे देश भी गोटे कम्युनिटी, बिकॉज़ से कम्युनिटी को हम इमेजिन करूचे. कम्युनिटी कम्युनिटीटा गोटे बहुत नैरो सेंस रे यूज होतला ना, कोडा ना फेस टू फेस इंटरेक्शन, जहा को डेली मुह देखुची कि तांको संगे इंटरेक्ट करि पारुची, गोटे सेंस ऑफ बॉन्डिंग अछि, सॉलिडारिटी अछि. नॉर्मली एटा गोटे गां रे थाय, गोटे विलेज रे थाय. तेनो सी गोटे टाको एक्सपैंड करले कि जे नाइ इमेजिन करूची जे आमे समस्त एज ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स वी आर इंडियंस. एटा गोटे इमेजिनेशन रो कथा. किंतु एबे जतरा आमे ग्लोबलाइजेशन एज रे जो डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी कहूचे, डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी देखो से माने इंडिया रे नाहांती, गोटे टेरिटोरी भितरे बांधी है कि नाहांती, किंतु से जो टेरिटोरियलिटी रो गोटे गोटे इमेजिनरी इन्फ्लुएंस अछि, गोटे होमलैंड हिसाब रे. एंड यू विल सी दैट ए जो लास्ट क्लास हमें डिस्कस करथिले जे यू विल फाइंड, सपोज टेक फॉर एग्जांपल द पंजाबी कम्युनिटी. The Sikhs, they are the maximum, they have the maximum population in Canada. UK रे भी तकर majority रही छंती से माने, ऑस्ट्रेलिया रे रही छंती. So after few generations they will be called as Australian Indians. कि तमे कहते ऑस्ट्रेलियन पंजाबीज हे परंती, इंडियन पंजाबी हे परंती, ऑस्ट्रेलियन पंजाबी हे परंती, कैनेडियन पंजाबी हे परंती. यू कैन टॉक अबाउट पंजाबीज फ्रॉम यूके. तेनु एटा गोटे ट्रांसनेशनलिज्म. काली के से माने सपोज तांकर कोठी बाहागर खोजिबे पुओ पे कि झियो पे, नॉट नेसेसरी कि से माने कनाडा रो देखिबे कि इंडिया रो देखिबे, से माने ऑस्ट्रेलिया रो भी देखि पारंती, से माने कोठी भी देखंती. तेनु गोटे ट्रांसनेशनल लेवल को कम्युनिटी आइडिया टा ट्रांसफर हे सारी छी. गॉट माय पॉइंट. So we today talk about transnational community, जोटा कि गोटे rare feature, and this feature is something very recent. It is something which belongs to the contemporary times. ता पूर्व हमें community टा को या सहित हमते लिंक करना थी. अब इटा काहे की हे परछि? Because of there has been a rise of economic and communication links. गोटे कम्युनिकेशन लिंक हे परिछि, एबे क्रिएट हे परिछि, आगुरु हे नथिला. सपोज एबे ट्रिनिडाड रे को इंडियंस अछंती, से माने एतेटा एस्टैब्लिश करि परलेनी होमलैंड सहित कनेक्शंस, कारण से टाइम रे कम्युनिकेशन ट्रांस ये नथिला. एते ट्रांसपोर्ट तो दूर कथा, जीवासिया तो दूर कथा, कम्युनिकेट भी करि परिबेनी. गोटे चिट्ठी पहुंचा को 6 मास वर्ष लागि जिवो. तेणु कि प्रकार कम्युनिकेशन मेंटेन हबो. किंतु एबे आर द क्लिक ऑफ द माउस रे तुम निज एबे हम क्लास ता कथा हमें देखिबा, को जगार तुम माने अच्छो एबे, मे बी फ्रॉम ऑल पार्ट्स ऑफ ओडिशा, को रिमोट विलेज रो के थाई पारे, के कोठी थाई पारे. काली के यदि तमे कोठी अमेरिका रो भी बसी कि यू कैन स्टिल हैव दिस क्लास. ତେଣୁ ଏଇଟା ହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ୟୁନିକେସନ ର କଥା which is completely different या ପୂର୍ବରୁ ସେଇ ଅବସ୍ଥା ନଥିଲା ଯୋଉଟା କି ଆଜିକା ସିନାରିଓ ରେ ଅଛି and I will say that you know today it's a time when we talk about transnational kinship groups, we talk about transnational social circuits and transnational communities. Because community टा गोटे nationalist level रे नहीं गोटे transnational level को पढ़े जाई सारची. And much attention is being paid to India and its diaspora community. तेणु इंडिया डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी टा गोटे एबे गोटे ट्रांसनेशनल कम्युनिटी कहले एटा भूल हबनी इट विल नॉट बी रॉन्ग इफ यू से दैट the diaspora community is a transnational community in India. And you will see that most of the diaspora community that stand out among the host society. Host society जोठी कि से माने माइग्रेट हेकी जाइथिबे से सोसाइटी रो कल्चर टिके भिन्न थिबो एमानक ठारू एंड सब बळे से माने गोटे माने अलगा ग्रुप हिसाब रे कम्युनिटी हिसाब रे बाछि जाउथिबे then when we talk about marriage and kinship alliances between people of Indian origin in Trinidad or Guyana, you know they have been sharing certain commonality. Dita alga alga nationality hele bi semane they can exchange brides, they can exchange grooms. You know that is the thing because as a community tame tamar cultural traits rakhicho. So now we go beyond the national boundaries. Some Indian diaspora communities who were twice migrants have transnational family linkages. Mane you may say कि ता झियर बाप घर ऑस्ट्रेलिया रे थिबो ससुर घर अमेरिका रे थिबो काली कि तार पिला माने जाय कि आउट पुट सेटल हेबे कि तार माउसी मौसा इंडिया रे थिबे तेनु देयर इज अ ट्रांसनेशनल लिंकेज माने से जो बैनियन ट्री कथाटा एग्जांपल काली रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर देथिले यू कीप ऑन ग्रोइंग तेनु सेटा होची गोटे ट्रांसनेशनल फैमिली लिंकेज and here you will see that they have created a cultural landscape of hybridity, confluence, and influence. Normally, when when you end up in a new place, you initial stages you stand out. Over few generations, say maybe with the third generation or fourth generation of Indians in Australia or Indians in America, they will develop a certain type of hybridity. You know, suppose somebody from this Islamic community, जो माने कि मे बी इंडिया रे रहिला बेल को फर्स्ट जनरेशन बुरखा पिंधुथिले आउ ट्रेडिशनल जहाँ भी पिंधुथिले आउटफिट्स but when they migrate you talk about the third or fourth generation they may the second or third generation they may maintain the hijab जोटा से माने मुंडरे बांधुछंती but they may go for jeans and other outfits then गोटे hybrid culture city develop करछि because we pick up elements from the native society from their society and at the same time we also at sometimes we transfer or influence their societies as well so we have a diaspora community that is based on the idea of linguistic identity because I mean when you talk about Punjabi community Gujarati community you talk about the Odia community we actually look for them globally we don't say that you know I am just looking for please mute your microphone you cannot say that you know I'm looking for you know suppose I'm looking for a odia bride mote odia bohu khojuchi odia bohu khojuchi it's not necessary ki mu khali odisha re dekhibi mu dekhibi america re keteta odia achanti tanka bhitru uk re kete jana odia achanti australia re achanti africa re achanti tenu I can go for this transnational kind of relationship jota ki ote nuwa cultural formation तेनु अगेन डिपेंड करे मोर आइडेंटिटी एबे कोन मो आइडेंटिटी एबे होची ओडिया तेनु गोटे आ सेटा गोटे टेरिटरी सहित बे एसोसिएटेड हुए सेटा इंडिया रो ओडिसा सहित खाली एसोसिएटेड हुए इट हैज स्प्रेड ओवर ग्लोबली आई एम जस्ट लुकिंग फॉर ए लिंग्विस्टिक आइडेंटिटी रादर देन ए टेरिटोरियल आइडेंटिटी तेनु वी कॉल इट ए ट्रांसनेशनल कम्युनिटी वी डोंट you know retain the features of a nationalistic community Yesterday I was talking about the Ugandan Indians who migrated and they still have contacts with their family in other countries. Suppose these Ugandan Indians, जो मैंने कि Uganda छाड़ी के से they had to migrate to Canada, and they have left behind few of their cousins in Uganda. They have their parents and grandparents in India. ତାଙ୍କର ଆଉ କିଛି ଜଣ ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସ କାନାଡା ନ ଯାଇକି ଅଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଲିଆ ପଳେଇଥିଲେ, କିଛି ଜଣ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ପଳେଇଥିଲେ. So they still remain a family, isn't it? And ସେଇ ଯୋଉ family ties ଟା maintain ହେଇପାରୁନଥିଲା because of lack of communication and transport facility, which has which this globalized age has facilitated. So with this coming up of the new technology, we today talk about transnational diaspora community, transnational family linkages, transnational kinship system, which is a fascinating phenomena today. Similarly, Fiji Indians who migrated elsewhere, they still have their family ties in Fiji, in New Zealand, so that still exists. And in order to strengthen that, today suppose there is this newspaper which is being published in India. ମୁଁ କହିବି କି ଯେ ଆମର ସମ୍ବାଦ newspaper ଏବେ online ସମସ୍ତେ ପଢୁଛନ୍ତି, and with this COVID cases coming up, we have actually moved on to this online platform. We could move it very quickly. ଆମେ ଏବେ ଖବର କାଗଜରେ ହାତ ମାରିବାକୁ ବି ଡରୁଛୁ. And Odia sitting in New Zealand or sitting in Iceland, he is able to read that newspaper ki Odisha re kona hochi, and isn't it phenomenal? Say jo rootedness, we are talking about a rootedness that is being maintained because of the facility that has been created due to the present scenario, which has developed this idea of transnationalism. So today we can say that with fourth generation diaspora, at times they get diluted. Somebody who has stayed there for the fourth generation, him or she might lose their cultural identity completely to the host society. Normally in the first generation they would be very critical about their identity. We are Indians, hame traits follow kariya. But over the years, the children, the grandchildren, they keep identifying themselves with the host society, and they will no longer say that we are Indians. This phenomena of globalization with its technology has facilitated in maintaining that. You will see that during Fijian crisis, जोटा कि दिथरा हेतला, हमें last class discuss कर सकते. Recently, जोटा 2000 रे भी out हेतला. There were these people of Indian origin across the world who actually stood in solidarity for them. They said that no, we as Indians, we believe that सेठी भी हम भाई भौणी माने अछंती, they are suffering. Fijian government should take this step. There is this transnational networking that is soon developing among the diaspora, be it Indian or any other diaspora. And talk about festivals, Indian festivals. We talk about Diwali, Holi, Baisakhi, whatever festivals that is being celebrated in India. Now, these transnational communities, they have actually taken it to a global platform. You will find these not only this diaspora community, even you will find there the people from the host community who participate along with them. You'll see them glittering in Indian outfits and sharing sweets and playing Holi or celebrating Diwali with all all kinds of jubilation. Similarly, there was this case in Trinidad. Trinidad is actually, it has a brilliant example of being a multicultural society. So, multicultural society ଏଥିପାଇଁ କାରଣ ବହୁତ ଦେଶରୁ nationals ସେଠି ଯାଇକି ରହିଯାଇଛନ୍ତି. They were these indentured laborers who were being carried from different parts. ଆଉ ସେଥିରେ native ଲୋକ ବି ଥିଲେ, and that's the reason they celebrate this carnival, which actually marks this cultural diversity of the diaspora community from different countries. And at the same time, you will find certain religious cultural forms which is being maintained by this diaspora community in their host societies. So, for example, Hindu temples. ଚାରିଆଡେ ଆପଣ ମାନେ ମନ୍ଦିର ପାଇବେ, ଗୁରୁଦ୍ୱାର ପାଇବେ across USA, Canada, UK. ଯେମିତି ଲାଗିବ କି ଆଚ୍ଛା ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ଅଛି କି ଆଉ କୋଉଥିରେ ଅଛି. You will find it everywhere. You know, this is actually it marks the presence, the strong presence of the diaspora community. And besides, there are other spiritual organizations. Suppose ମୁଁ କହିବି ସ୍ୱାମୀ ବିବେକାନନ୍ଦଙ୍କ ରାମକୃଷ୍ଣ ମଠ ହେଲା କିମ୍ବା ତମର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ you have ISKCON, you have many Hindu organizations, religious organizations, just spiritual organizations. You will find their outlets everywhere globally, and it's actually it's a very fascinating phenomena when you see these kind of transformations, and it's not that they are only affecting the people, the Indian community only. They even have a great impact on the natives of the society, on the whites. Suppose jone North America re achi ki jone Australia re achi, you will still find that Satyam Sai Babaଙ୍କର ସେଠି ବହୁତ followers ଅଛନ୍ତି, ସ୍ୱାମୀ ନାରାୟଣଙ୍କର ବହୁତ followers ଅଛନ୍ତି ସେଠି, Rajneesh also, he actually became popular in the West, more popular in the West. You talk about Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, you talk about Ramdev Baba, doing yoga. ये सब जिनिस गुड़ाक बहुत popularized ही सारी West रे. And it is because of this diasporic community who have been following this religious networks here, and they have been actually propagating these organizations. So today you will find that there are certain Hindu community who found it more in particular. There is no, there are temples and there is no restriction on welcoming anyone based on caste. ଯେମିତି କି ଏବେ ବି ଆମର ଅଛି କି suppose we will say कि पुरी temple रे, पुरी मंदिर रे केही भी non Hindu will never be allowed. But बाहरे वेस्ट रे जो मंदिर गुड़ाक अच्छी, जो भी मंदिर अच्छी, they don't stick to these kind of restrictions. सेठी गोरा माने भी जानती, whites माने जिबे, सेठी अन्य nationality रो, अन्य religious category रो लोक माने भी जिबे, because they have accepted it. So it is beyond caste, creed, religion, and it is a platform of secularism. So that is बहुत a beautiful what you say, socio-cultural formation that has of religious institutions. So that it, because of the diaspora community that develop karisanchi, and it's very fascinating. And you will be completely transformed. So I suppose tomorrow they will give you the essence of the religion there. They will never have this restriction ki emti karo samti karo. No, there is nothing. But this is the spirit of Indian religion. That's what they try to communicate. And apart from Hindu social organizations, you have religious communities such as Indian Christians United, Indian Muslims Association, and many transnational linkages with this religious communities. And we will try to see what actually was responsible in creating these interdiasporic linkages. काहेकि जो सोशियो कल्चरल लिंकेज हैला को एलिमेंट्स का फैसिलिटेट करी जेटा तयारी हवा पे. I tell you again, in case you have any doubt, you can just stop me, you can intervene, and you can ask me. Okay. So one of the first factors was the new technological avenues that was coming up. Technology today at this point, it can reach at any corner of the globe. This virtual classroom that we are having is an example of it. ସମସ୍ତେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ଧରିକି କୋଉଠି କୋଉଠି ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଏବେ ବସିଥିବେ, କୋଉଠି କୋଉ ଗାଁ ରେ କି କୋଉ ସିଟି ରେ କି କୋଉଠି ଥିବ, irrespective of that we are still in a classroom. ଏଠି ଆଉ ଟେରିଟୋରି ରହୁନି. So this is the very idea of a new community formation. ଆମେ normally କହିଲୁ ଯେ community ର ଗୋଟେ important factor ଥିଲା territory. And classroom रे सबबळे हम ଗୋଟେ space को आसिबु, teacher student एकाठी हबु. Today we are talking about a form of a classroom where there is no community. So it itself is a virtual community. I'll come to this concept of virtual community jota ki hame discuss kariba next unit, right? We'll be discussing today. So technology, your internet, the latest technology, it has actually created enormous avenues for these new kind of socio-cultural linkages. And there is this multiplication of relations between different components of diaspora network, between diaspora communities themselves, and a more extensive multipolar structure of diaspora. ମାନେ ଆଗରୁ ଆମେ ଭାବୁଥିଲୁ ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ବହୁତ ନ୍ୟାରୋ ସେନ୍ସ ଅଫ ଡାୟାସ୍ପୋରା ଥିଲା ଯେ ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା ଡାୟାସ୍ପୋରା ଓକେ ଓକେ ସେଟଲ୍ ଦେୟାର ସେଟଲ୍ ଇନ୍ ଦ ଆମେରିକାସ୍ ସେମାନେ ବୋଧେ ତାହେଲେ ଯଦି ସେମାନେ କିଛି ରିଲେସନ୍ସ ମେଣ୍ଟେନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ବ୍ୟାକ୍ ହୋମ୍ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ସହିତ ରଖିବେ ନଟ୍ ନେସେସରି ସେଟା ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲ ଚେନ୍ ହେଇଗଲାଣି ସେଠୁ ସେଇଠି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ୍ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟିଜ୍ ଯୋଉଠି ବି ଅଛି ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲି they all come together and that has been possible because of this technology, this new technology. So the reason is that we are able to communicate more and more, interact among ourselves, transfer funds. काली की को suppose काली की again Africa रे को Indian असुविधा रे अच्छी. Indians from different parts of the world, they will try to accumulate fund and transfer it for their goodwill. Um, Transport goods, raw materials, we transport ideas and various components of diaspora network is actually, we take it in a very constructive and positive way. And then there is a affordable fare, we are able to travel. Agro international airfare, it was beyond the rich. Today it's much cheaper. Development of computers, to take my then computers को नेकी बहुत किच्छे पे ही सरची you know uh, you talk about installation of national languages on computer. For example, Google रे you will find Google assist जो assistant रो पे सब advertisements आसुची. If someone who is not able to uh, write in English କି search କରି ପାରୁନି ସେ just କହି ଦଉଛି କି ମତେ ଏଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ଦରକାର ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ହଉ କି ଇଂଲିଶରେ ହଉ according to the language preference the person is able to communicate. So for communication language is no longer a barrier. ଆଗରୁ ଇଂଲିଶ ଲାଙ୍ଗୁଏଜ ଟା ନ ଜାଣିଲା ମୁଁ ଇଣ୍ଟରନେଟ use କରିପାରିବିନି ଖୋଲି ପାରିବିନି. That is not the case. Language is no longer a barrier for any kind of communication and interaction. So today the development of internet, it facilitates instant communication between individuals, families and communities. Next is media and films. Films और media का एक बहुत important role रही in bringing this diaspora community together. You will find that there is a development of various forms of media within diaspora networks also, and they benefit all. And it's a media is actually a way for diaspora publicity. Uh, if you look at the movies of today's era, mostly तमें देखिबा कि जे it is about the diaspora community, which was not the case earlier. It is after 90s, with people, with movies like Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, Pardesh. Even अपन माने जो भी movie, pick up any Hindi movie, you will see that it is about the diaspora community. So movies are a great, they have. Please mute your microphone. Movies are they have a great role in actually bringing this community together. And this continued transnationalization of media in recent years, जोटा कि ହେଲା because of establishment of satellite and cable television, internet, and there is this print media, there is this social media, बहुत किसी जिनस रहुची, and news media. There are different forms of media, and they enables this linkages between various communities. Uh, there was this the high level committee on Indian diaspora, and they made a list of ethnic media that promote Indian culture, and they could identify these channels like I'm giving you some examples which is there in your material. Laksara channel for Punjabi people, Gurjari channel for Gujarati people, Anjuman channel for Urdu, uh, Bangla channel for Bengali, and then you have Asian channel for Asians in Australia, CCI TV for Tamil, RAG channel for South Asian. So So we all cater to this regional feeling. So it is not just the national feeling. It globalization at the same time, it goes on bringing more and more regionalization. And there is this chutney music. I don't know if you have heard of it or not. Chutney music is actually a hybrid kind of music, which is very, very, indigenous to these people in West Indies, and is music lovers simply just love it because they are highly melodious, and at the same time it's enjoyed by the diaspora, Indian diaspora community from different parts of the world. And chutney artists, they have a mixture of lyrics. Se lyrics ta Hindi re lekha thibo, Bhojpuri bhasha thibo, English thibo, ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ପଞ୍ଜାବୀ ଥିବ, ବହୁତ ଜିନିଷ ସେଥିରେ ଥିବ. Today we have this kind of you talk about Hindi songs also, ସେଥିରେ ବହୁତ ପଞ୍ଜାବୀ lyrics, Urdu words ଥିବ, ବହୁତ ପ୍ରକାର ଜିନିଷ ମିଶିକି ଆସୁଛି. So chutney is that kind of a new hybrid phenomena which is a product of globalization and which is a product of this transnationalism, and it caters mostly to the diaspora community, and it's very popular among the among the East Indian community in Trinidad, Tobago, Guyana, Suriname. You'll find people in Toronto. You'll find it very popular, this chutney music. Then you have certain diasporic writers, people of Indian origin who have engaged themselves in creating and writing the stories of their experience, how it was growing up in the new host country. So these writings, they are representations of experiences of those indentured laborers. You have great writers like A.K. Ramanujan. You have Agha Sahid, Bharti Mukherjee, uh, uh, then Salman Rushdie, even V.S. Noipal, to mention just a few. And if you look at their locations, they are, the PIOs of community, the people who traveled there. So how it is like growing up there. So, there is the response of the diasporic writers to India, and it's a feeling. We were earlier used to reading texts which were bounded with a particular nationalistic feeling. ଆମେ ଯାହା ବି ଆଜି ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ପଢିଛେ, ଯୋଉ ବି ବଡ ବଡ ଆପଣ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ପଢିଥିବେ, ସେଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ବାଉଣ୍ଡରୀ ଭିତରେ ସୀମିତ ରହିଥିଲା. ତା କଣ୍ଟେକ୍ସଟା ହଉ କି ତାର ଯୋଉ ଇସ୍ୟୁଟାକୁ ନେଇକି ସେ ମେନସନ କରୁଛି, ଯାହାକୁ ଲେଖୁଛି, ଯାହା ବିଷୟରେ. ସୋ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ସମଥିଙ୍ଗ you are aware of. ସପୋଜ ଏବେ ମୁଁ କହିବି କି ଯେ ଫକୀର ମୋହନ ସେନାପତିଙ୍କର ଛଅ ମଣା ଆଠ ଗୁଣ୍ଠ, ଗୋଟେ ଫ୍ୟୁଡାଲ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ, ଗୋଟେ ମେ ବି 19th ସେଞ୍ଚୁରୀ ଓଡିଶାରେ କୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର୍ମେସନ ହଉଥିଲା. ୟୁ ଆର୍ ଆୱେର ଅଫ୍ ଇଟ୍, ଆଣ୍ଡ you will see that ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ନୂଆ ନୂଆ ରାଇଟିଂସ୍ ଆସୁଛି by these diasporic writers, ସେମାନେ they are Indians, and but at the same time ସେମାନେ କେବେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ଭିଜିଟ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି. ସେମାନେ ସବୁବେଳେ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ ହିଁ ବଢିଛନ୍ତି, ସେଇଠି ହିଁ ରହିକି ଆସିଛନ୍ତି. ତେଣୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ଆଉ ଆମର ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ବହୁତ ଭିନ୍ନ ହବ, and we try to see that that's really fascinating କି ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଯିଏକି ସେଇଠି ଲୋକେଟେଡ, ସେଇ ଟାଇମରେ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଟାଇମରେ ବଡ ହଉଥିଲା, सोशियो पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियो कौन थिला, से इयर तार कल्चरल नरेटिव्स कौन थिला, कोटा ताको इन्फ्लुएंस करथला, हाउ आवर लाइव्स आर डिफरेंट एंड एट द सेम टाइम सिमिलर. ए जिंसटा गोटे मिले छी. ओके, चिन्मय शेखर साहू, he wants to know that what chapter is we are actually discussing. It is, I told you again and again, it is unit 16, 17 and 18 from your block 4. Okay. So, this diaspora was actually, a celebration of the nostalgia. कि अच्छा हम माने छाड़ी के पड़े छु, we have been alienated, किंतु it's at the same time, it reconnects. कि अच्छा, we belong to this one place, and this is how we two are, how we are different, how our lives have been different, and yet we stand connected. That is about these transnational diasporic writers. And then there has been linkages which has been possible because of certain organizational linkages between certain diasporic groups. And the diasporic groups that we are talking about, they are like certain, they are global in nature. For example, ଆପଣମାନେ ଶୁଣିଥିବେ, you might have heard of NGOs and certain diplomatic, certain transnational organizations such as GOPIO, SPICMAK, or you might have heard of Ramakrishna Mission. ଏଗୁଡାକ ଖାଲି ଏବେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ସୀମିତ ନୁହେଁ. They are transnational in their very nature and in their very reach and in their the fundings they receive. It's quite global. So if you look at the GOPIO, it was founded at the first global convention of people of Indian origin. ନ୍ୟୁୟର୍କରେ ଏଟା ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଥିଲା 1989 ରେ. The initial thrust of GOPIO was fighting human rights. जो इंडेंचर्ड लेबर पीपल ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन जो माने कि जाय कि एठी सेठी बसी जाय छंती, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ चेंजिंग पॉलिटिकल एंड सोशल what changing scenario, sometimes their human rights there has been violated. So these organizations have looked into that. And in its primary objective of this GOPIO was to secure human rights for these PIOs, and later on it got diversified into many other activities. And today, it's a global organization that talks about that works for the well-being of NRIs and people of Indian origin, and looks into various sectors. It looks into the legitimate rights and interests of this Indian community globally. It tries to promote certain secular and developmental interests of in the country where they are actually staying today. Then they try to take up common issues and problems like education, technology, which is common for Indians across the globe. ସବୁ Indians ମାନଙ୍କ କି ପ୍ରକାର problem ରହୁଛି, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ସେଟା ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରେ. Then there is a forum, and they try to discuss and debate the issues and problems of Indians who are staying abroad, and how to how to address those problems. Then to spread information, disseminate information regularly on global, regional, and national developments that affects the Indian community. To develop certain channels of communication between Indians who are resident in different countries, ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ କେମିତି connectivity develop କରିବ. And to raise funds, most importantly. Suppose ଏବେ ମୁଁ କହିବି କି ଯେ ଗୋଟେ Amphan, ଏବେ it could hit Bengal and devastated Bengal. ତେଣୁ Bengali diaspora ଯେତିକି ଥିବେ globally, it will try to connect them. ସମସ୍ତେ funds collect କରିକି अच्छा बेंगल को किछटा donate करो. कि पूର୍ବରୁ last year ଆମର ଯେମିତି ଫନି ଆସିଥିଲା and we had a serious crisis. So there are these diaspora community who are working towards it. Then there is this organization called SPICMAK. SPICMAK और बहुत cultural, musical, dance programs arrange करे. You might have seen or heard of it. The full form which is Society for Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture amongst the youth, SPICMAK. So it aims at introducing traditional Indian culture to the youth. Indian youth ଯେମିତି Indian culture ସହିତ ଜଡ଼ିତ ହେଇକି ରହୁ. It should identify with its own culture. It seeks to conserve and promote awareness about the heterogeneous, cultural roots we have, because it is the youth who actually gets disrooted, and especially with the diaspora community, because with third or fourth generation they are actually completely they get rootless, because they identify themselves with the host society, they get assimilate. So it's basically for streamlining these youth. And the idea of promoting Indian classical music among the youth is, it actually took off not in India but United States. Uh, uh, you will see that Stigma K, when it came in 1972 at a concert uh, in Brooklyn Academy, and it came under the banner of India Club of Columbia University during the period 72 to 76. And the idea, it took a more defined direction in 77. And then it started spreading to different countries like Canada, Germany, then we started introducing artists from India, and that is how we tend. Speak McKay was the basic idea was to sensitize this diaspora youth with the rich culture that India is having. And then there is this Indian Council of Cultural Relations, which is a cultural body of the government of India, and it does not promote inter-diaspora linkages directly. It has an indirect role. Indirectly, say inter-diaspora linkages promote correct. ICSR is about communion of culture, ICCR, and it tries to initiate a dialogue between two countries to facilitate this interaction with the world cultures. The council actually tries to bring about all diversity and richness of India's culture before the world. So it also publishes a journal which talks about all elements associated with Indian culture. Talk about philosophy, mythology, music, dance, theater, Sanskrit classics, and it has many several branches across the world. Now, at the same time, you will see that apart from these organizations, apart from the technology, media, films, there is a strong networking for regional diaspora. आम्ही जिथे की इंडियन डायस्पोरा डिस्कस करू नये, you will see that it's fascinating that it is more or less a presentation of regional diaspora. If we don't actually communicate or interact, or the linkages are formed on the basis of being Indians, but on the basis of the regional provinces that we belong to, certain kind of linguistic diaspora, maybe. So here you will see that people who belong to two or more societies at the same time, it's all because of this migration, transnational migration. And today there are umpteen number of regional organizations having transnational networks. There are organizations for the Bengalis, Gujaratis, Punjabis, Telugus, Tamils, Kannada, Malayalis, Marathi. So these diasporic socio-cultural linkages are across the globe. And for example, look at the case of Telugus. They have migrated to different parts of the world as coolies during the colonial times, and in the present times as software engineers and doctors. So they have a very strong inter-diaspora network across the globe. And the Telugus, they form a global network which is called WTF, World Telugu Federation. It was inaugurated in 1993, and the, the primary aim was to promote and perpetuate Telugu culture, language, heritage, tradition, and also business, so that these Telugu people, they can interlink with each other, and they can give and bring more business for each other. They can have more networking. So now it has several networks across the globe, and it also promotes performing arts and handicrafts of the Andhra Pradesh. Then talk about Gujarati. They have many charitable works and religious organizations across the world. Punjabi diaspora, it is one of the most strongest and most noticed because they have a very strong network. The reason being that the population of Punjabis or the Sikhs are, it's quite high in most of these countries to which these Indians have moved out. They are now a global diaspora. And social network facility and the transnational mobility of these Sikhs, now looking into the education and professions that they have taken up, it could grow actually without any problem. So you will see that, for example, a young educated Sikh who have grown and grown disillusioned by the lack of opportunities in racist and industrially in the declining country like Britain, he may not like being there, and he won't, come back to India as well. So he may, you know, he may join some other Sikh community, say in East Africa, Canada, or United States, or Australia, which is more attractive to him. So it's not only, earlier we used to think that okay, the diaspora community, if they are beaten up there or if they don't have a chance there, they will have to come back to India. No, they have this entire world for themselves, and there are so many transnational TV and radio channels like G Alpha TV, Punjabi Radio, this multicultural Radio Punjabi Saturday, Montreal, Canada, Radio Sikh Info, Delhi, uh, Kum- uh, Kummanamma, and they reach Punjabis across the globe. And we all know that Punjabi Bhangra is so popular even among us also. Similarly, chameleons. Chameleons, they were the ones who migrated because of these Kangani system, indentured labor system, and mostly you could see that they ended up everywhere. Today, apart from the Punjabis, you find that Tamilians are majority of the POIs are Tamilians, and they constitute today a substantial part of the academic world, or say engineers or scientists, and that's how they have a very strong networking. And then you see, the network is, and as I told you in the early initial part of the class, that this networking is not just for business or just for opportunities, but also for setting families. They are ready to spread their family roots to different continents. They will today a Tamilian may not look for a bride back in Tamil Nadu. He or she may go for Sri Lankan, they may go for a Malaysian, they may go for a Singaporean, they may go for a Canadian. So they have this entire world before them. That is what the idea of this transnational family system is all about. And there are so many caste-based transnational diasporic networks. For example, Dalit diaspora. It is irrespective of language, they just identify themselves as being Dalits. Or today, that's also an important part of the diaspora. Then TANA, there is this Telugu Association of North America. And there is this, this TANA is actually an organization of people which was founded by Kamma caste, which is again a dominant caste which has its origin in Andhra Pradesh, and they have brilliant networking. So they believe that they can network across the globe and create opportunities for each other. So when you talk about Dalits of different countries, they have been networking and supporting the fellow Dalit diasporas and Dalits in the country of origin. And the transnational Dalit diaspora of India and Nepalese origin have taken the advantage of ICT. They are able to look for opportunities. Okay, there is an opportunity here, you can come and join. Dalits from India or Nepal can come. So there is so much of networking that they try to help each other, pull each other, so that they all can uh, move forward as a community, as a group. Okay, so that was about we started talking about the organizational uh, different organizations that could actually come up with these caste-based transnational diaspora. We have discussed that already. Um, Now we will see that how the home and the diaspora relationship has been maintained. How the homeland and the diaspora they try to intermingle with each other and maintains its connections all through. So mostly I told you that there is a difference between the old diaspora and the new diaspora, isn't it? So the old diaspora is one who is actually what you say, uh, you know, who connects to the homeland, but in a different way. It could be in a form of a collective memory. Collective memory, as I told you earlier, it's something that has been passed on to you. It's not your own personal memory. कि मते मे बी मो ग्रैंडफादर मते स्टोरीज कहिचंती when his grandfather was a indentured labor in Trinidad से गोटे PIO एबे fourth or fifth generation पर से story टा passed on ହେଇଛି to this person. So it would fascinate him कि अच्छा इंडिया रे एमती थिबो, इंडिया रे सेमती थिबो. न्यू डायस्पोरा तार मेमोरीज जाक बहुत रीसेंट, तार कनेक्शंस अछि, he has his home, his family, he or she, they have the networks. किंतु old diaspora रे गोटे एटा collective memory रा कथा. So recently you will see that these Bollywood movies they have rekindled this connection जोटा कि ये जो PIOs माने people of Indian origin माने भूली सारी थिले, that has been rekindled with the new Bollywood movies. Then you will see that globalization has strengthened the link of diaspora with homeland due to technology. Now you want to cook some ethnic food. ଏବେ କଣ suppose I will say कि मते ए जिनसटा जणा नाही आरिसा पिठाटा केमिति हुए. As an Odia, ebe ei सब जिनस लोप पाइगलानी. In a fast track life, we are not able to keep up with the traditional cuisine. ଏବେ ପଖାଳ ବଡ ବଡ ହୋଟେଲ 5 ଷ୍ଟାର ହୋଟେଲ ମାନଙ୍କରେ ପଖାଳ ଆଜିକାଲି ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ ଷ୍ଟାର ମେନ୍ୟୁ ଭଳିଆ ଏବେ ବିକ୍ରି ହଉଛି. ତେଣୁ this is how ଗୋଟେ regional level ରେ ଗୋଟେ ethnic food ଟା popularized ହଉଛି. And in order to suppose मते पिठा खाए इच्छा होची आ मु एबे ओडिसा रे नाही मु अमेरिका रे अछि. No worries, technology अछि, YouTube रे हजार हजार टा एमिति रेसिपीज अछि जोटा कि I'll be able to do it. So से जो connectivity टा maintain ही पारुची because of technology. I need to go home. You can traveling is so easy today. आग भड़ी आ नाही कि जणको 6 मास लागि जाउची 8 मास लागि जाउची माने बाय सी रूट रे जिबा पे. Tickets आग भड़ी एते expensive भी नाही. It's still expensive but things are changing today. So there are youngsters who belong to this old diaspora community. Today they are coming back home in search of their roots. कि अच्छा मो ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर को सुनिथिले कि जे मो गाँटा एठी थिला ए जगह टिके देखि देखि आसे एथरा वेकेशन रे मो को नवा जगह न जाय कि मो इंडिया जीबी. I'll try to interact, I'll try to search my roots and find my relatives. ए जो गोटे कनेक्शन है. And then you will see that again ମୁଁ ଆପଣ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯୋଉ କଥାଟା କହିଲି କି ଯେ ସକାଳେ ଉଠିକି ଗୋଟେ ଭର୍ଣ୍ଣାକ୍ୟୁଲାର ନ୍ୟୁଜ ପେପର ପଢିବା, ମିଡିଆଟା ଗୋଟେ ବିରାଟ ବଡ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର ଏଇଠି, ମିଡିଆ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଟେକ୍ନୋଲୋଜି. And at the same time the deregulation policy jota ki after liberalization hela after 1991 there was this flow of capital finance, hatat remittances increased hai gala from abroad. That is because of these things the connectivity was rekindled. Se emotional link ta no asile kebe hele bi eta hoboni, kebe hele bi seta hei pari no thanta. So it is an important impact, it has also an important impact on entrepreneurship. Many successful entrepreneurs of Indian origin who live in say in an advanced society like not a society but an economy like USA or Canada or Europe or the Gulf countries, they will say that I'll pass on the skills to the next generation of labor, people in India. They not only bring back home. Suppose jone UAE ରୁ ଫେରିକି ଆସିଲା ଗୋଟେ लेबर से किछटा नुआ स्किल से खाली पैसा तो धरिकी आसुनी କିଛି skills ଶିଖିକି ଆସୁଛି and he will see that I will try to have those kind of ideas. Somebody like Dhirubhai Ambani who could migrate to the Middle East in those eras, and today Ambanis are one of the you know millionaires, billionaires. So that is the case. You not only bring money, you bring back skills, you bring back new ideas to your home. And China is a glowing example of that. You know, why Chinese they are such a great manufacturing hub. ଆମେ ବି କହୁଛେ ଚାଇନା ସହିତ ରିଲେସନ ଖରାପ ହେଇଗଲେ ପୁରା ସବୁ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଯିବ ବିକଜ ଛୁଞ୍ଚିଠୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିକି ଏଭ୍ରି ଟାଇନି ଲିଟଲ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ it comes from China. And ଆପଣ ଯଦି normally ଗୋଟେ western food ଦେଖିବେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ Chinese food ଦେଖିବେ, I'm not talking about quality but again ଗୋଟେ ଗରିବ ଲୋକ ବି ସେ ଜିନିଷଟାକୁ afford କରିପାରିବ. See for example smartphones. କେତେ ଜଣ ଗରିବ ଲୋକ ଆପଣଙ୍କ Samsung ଭଳିଆ ମୋବାଇଲ afford କରିପାରିବେ, but people can go for a for a Lava or a Gioni or a Micromax जोटा कि ଗୋଟେ low end ମୋବାଇଲ ଆସୁଛି. ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମ୍ୟାନୁଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଚରିଂ ହବ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଚାଇନା ହଠାତ୍ ହେଇଯାଇଛି, ଏଟା ଗୋଟେ ହଠାତ୍ ହେଇନି. It is because of the diasporic community who have passed on skills, who have actually ସେମାନେ ପୁରା ଲଗେଇ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ପଇସା ତାଙ୍କର ସ୍କିଲ୍ ସବୁ କିଛି mainland China. So that is how. So we don't talk about brain drain. Brain drain concept has been replaced by brain drain and brain circulation. Because brain ta circulate hoji. Ya pakru sekili siye ta pakru sikila. There is a kind of a circulation of new ideas because of diaspora. Then you have certain multi-layered home connections with these new developments. ये जो multi-layered home connections kono na the relation that the diaspora maintains with homeland, it is normally multi-layered. Why it is multi-layered? Because you will see that these connections are not only linked to the family but to the members of the village, to the community, to different forms of economic and socio-political linkages. For example, ମୁଁ ଏବେ ଖାଲି ଘରକୁ ପଇସା ପଠଉନି. ମୁଁ ଏବେ suppose ଆମେରିକାରେ ଅଛି, today I am an established businessman, I am doing very well. ମୁଁ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି. ତେଣୁ ସେଇଠି ମୁଁ କହିବି ମୁଁ କାହା ପାଇଁ କ'ଣ କରିବି? ମୁଁ ୟୁଏସଏ କାହାକୁ ପାଇବିନି, ମୁଁ କହିବି ମୁଁ ମୋ ଗାଁ ପାଇଁ କ'ଣଟେ କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି. ମେବି ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗାଁରେ ଥିଲି ମୋ ଗାଁରେ ସ୍କୁଲ ନଥିଲା. I will fund a school. I will start. ମୁଁ ଗାଁରୁ ଏମିତି ମୋ ଭଳିଆ ବହୁତ ପିଲା ବାହାରିକି ଆସନ୍ତୁ. ମୁଁ କେତେ କଷ୍ଟ କରିଛି. ମୁଁ ପାଠ ପଢିବାକୁ ମୁଁ 10 କିଲୋମିଟର ଚାଲିକି ଯାଉଥିଲି. ଗାଁ ପାଖାପାଖି କିଛି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସପୋର୍ଟ ନଥିଲା, ଇଏ ନଥିଲା. ସେଇ ପିଲା କଷ୍ଟ ଗୁଡାକ ଆମ ଗାଁ ପିଲାମାନେ ଆଉ ଯେମିତି ନ ଫେସ୍ କରନ୍ତୁ. So I will try to maintain that connectivity. Not only ଖାଲି ମୁଁ ଘରକୁ ପଇସା ପଠେଇଦେଲି ନାହିଁ, ମୋ ଗାଁକୁ ମୋର କାଷ୍ଟ ମେମ୍ବର୍ସ ହେଇପାରେ, ମୋର କିନସିପ ରେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଅଛନ୍ତି କିନସିପ ଗ୍ରୁପରେ ମୋର ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସ ହେଇପାରନ୍ତି କିମ୍ବା as such ମୋର ଡିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିକ୍ଟ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ. ତେଣୁ ଡିପେଣ୍ଡସ୍ ଅନ୍ ହାଉ ବିଗ୍ ଆଇ am. ତେଣୁ ଏଠି ଖାଲି ଇକୋନୋମିକାଲି ମୁଁ ହେଲ୍ପ କଲିନି, ମୁଁ ପଲିଟିକାଲି ସୋସିଆଲି ସବୁ ପ୍ରକାର ଲିଙ୍କେଜ ରଖିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କଲି. And as I told you that the fundamental way of connecting, the way we connected earlier, ଆଗରୁ କ'ଣ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପିଓଆଇ ମାନେ ଅସୁବିଧାରେ ଥିଲେ ସେମାନେ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିଥିଲେ ଆଚ୍ଛା ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଏମ୍ବାସିକୁ ଫୋନ କର. That is not the case. Today ଏ ଯୋଉ କନେକ୍ସନ ଟା ଖାଲି ୟୁନିଲାଟରାଲ ହଉନି, এটা ମଲ୍ଟିଲାଟରାଲ ହେଇଯାଉଛି because experience ଟା ବି ସେତିକି vast. Suppose ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଯେ କି ତାର ଫୋର ଫାଦର୍ସ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରୁ ମାଇଗ୍ରେଟ ହେଇକି ଯାଇଥିଲେ ଆଫ୍ରିକା, ତାପରେ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଜେନେରେସନ ଆଫ୍ରିକାରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ କ୍ରାଇସିସ୍ ହେଲା 70s ବେଳେ ସେମାନେ ୟୁକେ ପଳେଇଲେ. ୟୁକେରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଆଲି ସେଟା ବେଶୀ ଗ୍ରୋ କଲାନି, କିଛି ଅପରଚୁନିଟି ହେଲାନି, ରେସିଆଲ ଡିସ୍କ୍ରିମିନେସନ ହେଲା, ସେମାନେ 80s ବେଳକୁ ପୁଣି କାନାଡା ପଳେଇଲେ. ଏବେ ନୂଆ ଅପରଚୁନିଟି ପାଇକି ଆମେରିକା ପଳେଇଲେ. ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଏବେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ କନେକ୍ଟିଭିଟିଟା ରହିବ, ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା ସେଇଠି ମୋର ଗୋଟେ କଜନ ଅଛି, ସେଇଠି ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ଫ୍ରେଣ୍ଡ ଅଛି, ମୋ ଭଉଣୀକୁ ମୁଁ ଏବେ ଏଇଠି ବାହା କରିଥିଲି ଏଇ ଦେଶରେ, ସେଇଠି ମୋର ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ମୋର ଏଇଠି ବି ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସ ଅଛନ୍ତି. ଆମେ ଯଦି ମେବି ଯଦି ଫ୍ୟୁ ଜେନେରେସନ୍ସ ବ୍ୟାକ୍ ଆମକୁ ଗାଁ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଏମିତି ଶୁଣେଇବା କି ଆଚ୍ଛା ତା ରିଲେଟିଭ୍ସ ଅଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଲିଆରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ଆମେରିକାରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, କ'ଣ ବାହାଦୁରିଆ କଥା ଜଣେ କହୁଛି. But it is very much likely today. It is likely ଖାଲି ନୁହେଁ, it is the fact today. ଏଇଟା ହିଁ ହଉଛି. Today family links ମାନେ ମୋ family ଯେମିତି ଆମର ଥିଲା ଯେ family as a community. ବାପା ମା ପିଲା ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଡ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ ଗୋଟେ ବଡ ଏକ୍ସଟେଣ୍ଡେଡ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲିରେ ଆମେ ରହୁ. That is not the case today. ମୋର ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଡ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ ଘରେ ଥିଲେ, इंडिया रे मो पेरेंट्स मूव आउट करी गले इंडिया रो से कनाडा मु एबे मूव करिनी कनाडा रो ऑस्ट्रेलिया तेनो पेरेंट्स अछंती बे ये रे मो भाई भूणी एठी पळेनी तेनो फैमिली को जोटे विराट बड़ा फैमिली ट्री across nations will be developing today. So that is the beauty of this transnational diaspora community today, which is a result of what you say, result of the new technology that has come up because of this diaspora, not because of the diaspora community, but diaspora community could take advantage of it. बहुत डेरी पर्यंत आमर ये जो माने कनेक्टिविटी टा मेंटेन हे कर नथिला. Just think of the time 70s रे when Nehru would be struggling with the problems of East Africans कि जेते बळे फिजी रे से क्राइसिस हेतला बर्मा रे जो क्राइसिस हेतला he was helpless but today तांको प्रेशराइज करिया को गोटे स्टेट को प्रेशराइज करिया को पे हजार हजार डायस्पोरिक कम्युनिटी दुनिया सारा रो बाहरिबे हठात इंटरनेट रे गोटे लॉबी ग्रुप क्रिएट हे जिवो गोटे गोटे मूवमेंट गोटे सोशल मूवमेंट इंटरनेट रे ही क्रिएट हे जिवो मु आ जाई की कहा से कथा हवा दरकार नै एठी रही कि मु फंड्स जनरेट करि परिबी किछि भी करि परिबी दैट इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ दिस कम्युनिटी टुडे and that's what I was trying to say that when you talk about the idea and the power of this diaspora community, it has both positive and negative powers. Positive kona? Na positive because for an economy, say for the Indian economy, the diaspora came as a great boon because in terms of remittances, in terms of the uh, savings, in terms of foreign direct investment, ki philanthropy. Somebody is trying to donate something. जन को के पैसा अच्छे बेसे हेल्प करिया को चाहूची ओडिसा रो फ्लड विक्टिम्स को से आराम से पे पैसा दे परिबे just a philanthropic act because they have money, they are rich, we are not. That's the thing. But negative influence भी अछि. Suppose say in the political domain when it comes to support for communalism काली की हिंदू और मुस्लिम्स को भीतर suppose उटे communal riot, suppose a communal riot would break out and Muslims across the globe, they will try to pressurize कि Hindus across the globe कहबे कि नहीं से community जो Muslims अछन तांको पैसा दे कि fund करे कि they will create problem for nationalism. Why is nationalism such a great problem for the Indian state? Because it is across the border funding आसुची खाली एया नुहे कि माने we think कि से माने तो जंगल रे अछन से माने कोठी एते आछन because it's a global networking. चाइना रो ये रो आ कोठी कोठी सब पळे आसुची. So ए जो extremist movement, separatist movement सब होबो ए जो extremism तक भी equally support करछन. Suppose jihad by Islamic radical groups, they will try to have their spread across the globe. ସେମାନେ funds कोठु भी रेज करि परिबे. It will make them stronger. Say funds को use करबे arms और ammunitions किनिबारे. तेनु diaspora community जेते strong तार population जेते strong सेही जिंसर equally, that is equally good and equally bad because that are positive way रे भी नहीं हबो negative way रे नहीं हबो. So how the diaspora is actually taking making use of their connections, that is a matter of serious concern here. Now if you talk about this connectivity it am various range रे देखि परियो family and personal range रे जोटा कि in terms of services gifts incomes हे परिबो social remittances रे जोटा कि in terms of ideas हे परिबो values हे परिबो कि social capital is nothing but your networking. I know somebody in America, I want to study in an American university. तो ये को professor to मते टा recommendation letter दियो कि मोर पे गोटे scholarship की fellowship arrange केमती कर दियो कोन कोन बाट बताओ. That is a kind of a connectivity through social capital. Then government को भी मिलिबो through NRIs funding, tourism promote होची because of them. मुझे काली एमती हम डिस्कस करले कि इंटरनेशनल यूनिवर्सिटीज सब सेटअप होची से इंटरनेशनल यूनिवर्सिटीज रो पुनी आउरी नुवा डायनामिक्स अछि. सो विभिन्न प्रकार जगह रे विभिन्न प्रकार माने इंपोर्टेंस रहउची ए जो डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी रे. And when you talk about this community has actually what you will say that it could actually make a difference because of some factors. They talk about 5 T's. 5 T's ଭିତରୁ ହଉଛି କଣ ନା you have what do you say, uh, tourism, transportation, telecommunication, trade and transmission of monetary remittances. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ଯୋଉ connectivity ଟା rekindle ହଉଛି between the diaspora, they will like to travel to different parts କି अच्छा suppose ମୁଁ ଖାଲି travel କରିବିନି holiday ମୋର ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ connectivity maintain ହେଇଛି ମୁଁ ମୋର route trace କରିବାକୁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ଆସିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି କି ମୁଁ ମୋର ପୁଅ ବାହାଘର କରିବି ମୋ ଝିଅ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଏବେ ଅଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଲିଆ ଯିବି, that is the thing. So tourism सेटा भी ये करूची because ଗୋଟେ personal काम हो I have to I travel across the border. जणे suppose झियो ऑस्ट्रेलिया रु आणी कि अमेरिका रे बाहा होची से किछि न होले तो बाहागर करिया को ऑस्ट्रेलिया जीवो से अति कम रे तो 10-15 टा लोकन को नेकी जाइथिबो, that is promoting tourism there. सेठी गले तो से बुलिबो this is how it actually creates many avenues and opportunities for both the countries. ट्रांसपोर्टेशन होची तेनु टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस आमे जेमति कि इंटरनेट रे आमे बेसी जेते कम टेलीकम्युनिकेशन बढ़िबो सेति कि हमर रेवेन्यूज बढ़िबो, ट्रेड बढ़िबो, ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ मनी पैसा दिया नेबा चलिबो तेनु ए जो टी 5 टीज कथा हम कहू जे it is because that this regular diasporic communities they are they they keep interacting with themselves regularly and joti tourism badibo sethi foreign exchange asibo generate ahuri hobo, extra domestic demands badibo, economy ahuri rise karibo, transportation hele airlines domestic travel companies bi sethru फायदा पाइबे, local taxis, local bus trains एवडा को भी सेथु regularly से माने visited हेबे by this diaspora community. And then there has been an explosion in international phone call traffic. Ebe ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ relation establish होची between people from two different continents तांको भितरे phone call तांको भितरे internet communication सेटार भी हबो phone companies मानको पे भी गोटे भलो ये. And then when you talk about any kind of celebration you have to talk about food, you have to talk about Indian jewelry, India ru kichita ye aswa darkar, traditional jinso asya darkar, music instruments eya bajya darkar. So many things are into it when you try to make a connection with the diaspora homeland. I mean not necessarily homeland को आसुचो को छुचो but still it affects your homeland because को ना को बाटरे तमे सेठू किछि प्रोक्योर करिवा को चेष्टा करिवो. So today we talk about diaspora finance and diaspora finance. It came as a great boon for many economies or weak economies like us. जोटा कि गोटे point रे weak थिले. And if you look at this diaspora community, they have there has been different ways of remitting these finances to the home country. Say in terms of remittances, mostly what is remittance? Remittance is the money sent home by these migrants. जो माने कि सेठी जाके काम करूछंती से माने घर को जो पैसा टा पठांती सेटा को हमें remittance. Official remittance to developing countries has reached $167 billion. এটা পুরোনা ডেটা তম ইয়ের আছে 2005 র ডেটা but still जोटा कि 90% went to South Asia with India's share being $22 billion. Can you imagine? এটা just because जो माने जाइछन्ती सेठी के घर को फ्रेंड्स को फैमिली को पैसा पठेइछन्ती and that accounts for $22 billion. So official remittances, they are the most stable form of diaspora finance. ये भी जो कि अच्छी निश्चय घर को पैसा पठेइबो तेनु आउ को इनकम ता आसु न आसु को इकोनॉमी फेल कला कि कहली बिजनेस चलेला न पल्ला किंतु ए रेमिटेंस टा एमती जिंस सेटा सस्टेनेबल लाइवलीहुड फॉर मेनी. And here you will see that at other times there are debate centers that centers on productive and unproductive use of remittances at the household level. But still ଗୋଟେ simplistic ଇଏରେ ତମେ ଦେଖିବ ଯେ currency flow କରୁଛି the capital flows. So at the same time, खाली capital एठी flow करूनी, एठी ideas भी आसुची, केमती कहली कि Chinese manufacturing hub हबा पछरे, it was ideas of the diaspora, तांको values, तांको attitudes, कि ना American माने एमती काम करंती, मु देखि जे Japanese system of industries रे एया थाए, आमो problem होची हम एया करूची, we try to apply those models. For example, जेतेबेले COVID-19 केस ता नुआ नुआ इंडिया रे ओडिसा रे आसिला, आमे कोन कले, वी स्टार्टेड टेकिंग अप यूहान रे एमिति हेतला, तांको मॉडल रे सेमे एमति स्टेज बाय स्टेज करथिले, तो आमे एमति एमति जिबा, वी लर्न फ्रॉम अदर्स एक्सपीरियंस. सो सेठी सोशल कैपिटल रहला कि हां एठी बड़ भाई अछि, चाहिले सानो पो को आमे पठै देई परिबु, सेटा सिखिबो, से सेटा सिखिबो, तो एटा खाली पैसा फॉर्म रे रेमिटेंस होनी, रेमिटेंस ता गोटे वैल्यू आइडिया, गोटे नेटवर्किंग फॉर्म रे भी होची, गोटे बिराट बड़ अपॉर्चुनिटी क्रिएट करूची दी जण को पे. Then there is also portfolio investment. So that what I mean normally कहूँ कि the flow comes into India in a number of ways. As NRI bank deposits to take advantage of special terms and interest rates. जैसे कि मैं कोई last class कोई थी कि NRIs का interest rate अधिका if they try to invest here than us. So suppose they are making an investment in stock market, mutual funds. So there are certain special provisions for them. And it is actually a gain for both. ଜଣକୁ attract କରିବ the NRIs ମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଇ ବାଟରେ ହିଁ, and they are the ones who can actually invest a lot. So you will see that in 1998, India was subjected to international sanctions by for carrying out nuclear tests. Government ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ nuclear test କଲା 98 ରେ, government had this fear that foreign exchange ଏଠି କମିଯିବ ବୋଧେ, because ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ଖରାପ ଭାବିଲେଣି, ଆଉ ବହୁତ countries ରେ ଗୋଟେ influence ଏବେ ଆମ ଉପରେ ପଡିବ, ଆମର ଏବେ ଏଇ ଅସୁବିଧାଟା ହବ, and it launched a huge sale of 5-year bonds कि कोना resurgent India bond बोली उटे हमें उटे SBI उटे आरंभ कला, सेथरे उटे patriotic feeling से रखिला से, and तार की theme थिला जे माने से जानी थिला जे गवर्नमेंट कुड नॉट काउंट ऑन पैट्रियोटिज्म कि हां तुम माने इंडियन फ्रीज अटैक किने दियो कहले केनी हेनी, दैट इज नॉट हाउ पीपल आर नॉट फूल्स, खाली पैट्रियोटिज्म को भी किया चेष्टा करे, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू सर्व. सो किछटा सिग्निफिकेंट बेनिफिट्स ऐड करला से जो बॉन्ड टा को अट्रैक्टिव करिया रे कोन ना ए 2% हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट इन डॉलर टर्म्स दैन द यूएस बॉन्ड मार्केट. यूएस बॉन्ड मार्केट रे जत्ति कि मिले थांदा, इंडियन बॉन्ड मार्केट रे 2% अधिका, बिकॉज़ सेई टाइम रे के इन्वेस्ट करि न थांते, एते बडे सैंक्शंस हलानी हम संगे ट्रेड डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस बहुत डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज आर रखिया को चाहना बिकॉज़ ऑफ द न्यूक्लियर रिलेशन, एंड there was a marketing campaign was launched in order to attract this new and this rich Indian diaspora, and it was a huge success. Immediately, it was seen that the NRIs purchased those bonds, and please mute your microphone. Please mute your microphone. Sudharma Malik, please mute your microphone. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say that so a crisis phase thila. The government was undergoing a crisis. So just gote कहला कि जे एबे तो एटा आसीबो ने हमें कोन करबा, and all of a sudden it was seen that 2.3 billion euro pounds 2 weeks re, more than 50% of which came from Middle East and Southeast Asian countries, 20% from Europe and North America. So that was a huge thing. माने आमे भाबु कि जे अच्छा डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज रे देबे कि ये देबे, मेजॉरिटी पळि आसला मिडल ईस्ट और साउथ ईस्ट एशिया कंट्री रो एनआरआईज मानको. So that is how the government has always taken the help of them. And then when you talk about foreign direct investment, it continuously flows to India, and it was only during the post-reform time that we liberalized era. So the FDIs actually started flowing in, and we actually were very particular about this NRI FDI flow. and it had already become a practice to compare ourselves with China. China eta kala, acha China mongol ko ebe satellite pathilani ame bi pathai deba, China eta kalani. So it was seen that ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ compare କଲୁ ଚାଇନାର FDI sange, uh, it was actually, dismal performance. Less than 5% of the cumulative FDI inflows in the liberalized era, they came from NRIs, compared to which was around 50% in China, 50% or 45%. So there was this significant difference between this composition of the two diasporas, the two kind of diaspora that we are talking about in terms of financial contribution. However, you will see that in recent times things have changed, and because that was a period ଯେତେବେଳେ PIOs କୁ Indian government ଜମା acknowledge କରିପାରିନଥିଲା. It was only in the 2000 ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ 90s late 90s ବେଳେ ଆମେ ପ୍ରବାସୀ ଭାରତୀୟ ଦିବସ celebrate କରିବା ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ, ଆମେ PIO card ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ, we started giving them opportunities and they also could feel that connectivity. So here, you know, we must say that overseas China number one, they are larger in number and they are doing very well. And they are more entrepreneur and they invest. The tradition to invest back home in India. In contrast to overseas Indians, so NRIs, PIOs, they are quite smaller. And for when they do not have strong business, family business, ki networking is strong nahi. So when ette matra re contribute kari paribani jemti Chinese kari paribe. There are other reasons. Khali gote ye katha kodini. Then business networks କଥା ଭିତରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ତ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯେ there is a long track record ଯୋଉଥିରେ କି people from different settlements, say from old diaspora or new diaspora like locations, they have set up business across, and there is Indian business sector in किछटा community roles बहुत थाए माने गोटे जगह को से माने जिबे, there are particular communities who are very good in that, and it is also quite common to see the formation of strong business networks among the diaspora communities. Usually suppose gote semana gote desare minority he ki thibe, say for example Gujaratis gote minority he ki gote desare thibe, but they will try to connect to other countries, Gujaratis from other countries, khali se jo host country re nuhe. So that enables them to use their cultural social capital jaha bhi achi se mane use kari parchenti. So that is another way in which the diaspora is actually helping. And I'll just try to give you an example here. ଏଠି ଦେଖିବେ ଯେ ଯୋଉ ସିଲିକନ ଭ୍ୟାଲିରେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରୋଫେସନାଲ ଆସୋସିଏସନ ସିପା ବୋଲି ଅଛି CA ରେ, which has around 1800 members, and it tries to provide a forum for individuals who are interested in meeting with visiting Indian businessmen and women. They try to exchange information and network with each other through a speaker series and seminars that they try to outsource, they try to give you more information in fostering business among the diaspora. So एमती बहुत रे अच्छी communities and जोटा की माने organizations जोटा की जो social networking टाण होची between the diaspora communities and the diaspora with the home country. And then diaspora philanthropy तो बहुत माने बहुत examples तार अच्छी. There is a case which has been cited in your text, which actually talks about uh, the role of community, in in many ways. There are certain arguments. When you talk about civic duty, loyalty to village, तम villages को पे तमर केते loyalty अछि, तमे केते identify करि परछ तमर गां सहित तमर देश सहित, and often there are these diaspora community who just donate, and there are also these professional groups like doctors, scientists, who are trying to pay back something to their homeland. Suppose you are a doctor in America, काली की तमे कम करिवो ना, तमे तमरो college जोठी तमे medical पढ़िथिलो कि तमर plus 2 college you will try to donate something, donate some money. Please mute your microphone. Please mute your microphone. There is the case of which plays the role of some communities, such as, for example, the Sikh philosophy, and there is this Rahit Maryada that places importance on philanthropy and altruism. कि काहाକୁ କେତେ ଦାନ କରିପାରିବି କାହାକୁ କେତେ ଦେଇପାରିବି and there are certain cultural values that that emphasize on दान सेवा केते selflessly सेवा କରିବି ତେଣୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତମ ପାଖେ economically doing well ତମର tradition ରେ ତମ religion ରେ ଏ ସବୁ values ଅଛି and at the same time ତମର ଗୋଟେ nostalgia ଅଛି କି ମୋ school ମୋ ଗାଁ ମୋର କଲେଜ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କିଛି ଦବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି ସେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଡାୟାସ୍ପୋରା କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି it comes out in a very big way ଏମିତି ବହୁତ ମାନେ philanthropic organizations ବି ଅଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉ ମାନେ କି ମାନେ ଡାୟାସ୍ପୋରିକ ଯୋଉ ମାନେ ସପୋଜ ଖାଇବାକୁ ପାଉନାହାନ୍ତି ଯୋଉ ମାନେ ଇମିଗ୍ରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଅଛନ୍ତି illegally ଆସିଛନ୍ତି କି ଯୋଉ ମାନେ ଆସିଛନ୍ତି କୌଣସି ବାଟରେ ଫେରି ପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ପେପର୍ସ ଠିକ ହେଇ ପାରୁନି ଏମିତି ବହୁତ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ୍ସ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉମାନେ ଏମାନଙ୍କୁ ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଖାଲି ସେତିକି ନୁହେଁ ବ୍ୟାକ୍ ହୋମ ବି ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁଛନ୍ତି and talking about political connection ସବୁବେଳେ ଦେଖିବା ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପାଇବେ କି ଯେ political connections it had a huge role to play when you talk about this diaspora community. हिस्टोरिकली भी हमें देखिया मिलिछि हमको फॉर एग्जांपल जेतेले म आपननको एलटीटी विषय लास्ट टाइम कहिथिली LTT was a parallel organization जोटा कि श्रीलंका रे चली थिला and it was meant for the Tamilians upliftment तेनो दुनिया जाको जेति कि Tamilians थिले से माने सपोर्ट करथिले आ से माने ताको आर्म्स अम्युनेशन पैसा सब देई कि सपोर्ट करी कि चलथिले फॉर एग्जांपल एबे देखन तो आपण सपोर्ट फॉर the self determination of Kashmir केला कश्मीर मिलिटेंसी को नहीं कि कोठी फंडिंग आसुची सो ए जो लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस नेशनलिज्म जोटा कुआ जाय छि मो नाही बट आई आइडेंटिफाई माय सेल्फ एज अ कश्मीरी मो चाहू जे कश्मीर टा सेपरेट नेशन हे जाओ तेनु मु चाहि भी जे से इंडिया ठरो अलगा हे जाओ कि एबे मु जो इस्लामिक टेररिज्म हम एबे कहू छी बिकॉज़ दे हैव अ डिफरेंट नोशन कि नहीं नहीं एटा एमिति करिया दरकार तेनु जोठी भी इस्लामिक कम्युनिटी अछि दे विल ट्राई टू रेज फंड्स अगेंस्ट देम तेनु एटा ଗୋଟେ लेटेस्ट प्रैक्टिस ऑफ दिस जोटा कि हमें कहू छु कि गोटे माने बैड आउटकम ऑफ दिस ग्लोबलाइज्ड एज आपण माने देखिथिबे इट इज ओनली आफ्टर दिस ग्लोबलाइज्ड एज दैट टेररिज्म हैज एक्चुअली come up in a very rampant way सेटा one of the
मैम
negative
मधेसी कम्युनिटी नेपाल रे
हाँ हाँ
से माने भी जो वर्तमान तांके जहाँ भी सेटे करूचंती आमे इंडिया रे किछि जदी कहले सेटा भी नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट होउची कारण से माने तांकर गोटे ग्रुप सेटे जो मधेसी कम्युनिटी तांके सरकार आसिया पई तांकर किछि प्रेसिडेंट नै पारिबनी कोन विभिन्न जो चेंजेस आनी जदी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रे जोटा कि इंडिया किछि कहले भी सेटा नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट होउची पॉलिटिकल कनेक्शन ये रे
एग्जैक्टली आपण प्रति देश रे बे देखिबे सेमति किछटा कम्युनिटी बे ग्रो कलानी एंड तांकर सपोर्ट ता जो ट्रांसनेशनल डायस्पोरिक कम्युनिटी रु आसुची सो गोटे नेशनल गवर्नमेंट बे डरी लानी हमें त गोटे ग्लोबलाइजेशन आपण माने पेपर ता पढिछंती कि नाही मु जानि त आपण टेक्स्ट रे अछि कि नाही गोटे सिंपल लाइन थाय कि जे ग्लोबलाइजेशन हबा फळरु नेशन स्टेट इज लूजिंग इट्स सोवरेनिटी जेबे बहुत ऑकवर्ड लागे सेंटेंस जे सोवरेनिटी केमति पड़ला कि कोन अटैक करि गला कि कोन ताको छड़े नै गला दैट इज नॉट द थिंग बट ए जो पावर ता हाथ रे रहु नथला आगो भलिया एटी डायस्पोरिक कम्युनिटी ट्रांसनेशनल नेटवर्किंग केतले पसि गलानी केतले वर्ल्ड बैंक तम ऊपर चाप पकेलानी केतबेले जो कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड अछि बड़ बड़ कंपनीज माने अछि जोटे सह सह लोक को तम देश रे चाकरी दै छनि सेई माने कहले नै नै तमे एमती करि परिबनी सेमती करि परिबनी तेनो दैट इज द केस जो ग्लोबलाइज्ड एरा रे नेशन स्टेट ता या पूर्वर जति के पावरफुल है कि थिला माने प्राइम मिनिस्टर कहबो मु एटा करिबी से सेटा करिवो एटा सी एटा कला को यार ए रिपरकेशंस हेई पारे सी एतिका जिंस हेबे माइंड रे रखी के करिया को पड़िवो you know that is the thing when we talk about this networking in this globalized age. So you will also see that there is this new policy that is mobilizing this diaspora homeland relationship. Um, this new policy, I mean, you know, even long after independence, these Indians they were living abroad when they were treated, ill-treated in their host countries. Indian government couldn't actually stand by them. But you know, there is a radical departure after this liberalized era of 1991. You will see the reason being that uh, you will see that when there was this economic policy was being initiated and India was in crisis, great crisis for foreign exchange. So it was forced to adopt, you know, the IMF World Bank structural adjustment program ଆମେ ଯୋଉ କହୁ ପ୍ୟାକେଜ ଯୋଉଟା ଆସିଲା 1991 ରେ ଯୋଉଟା କି ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭେନସନ ସବୁଥିରେ କି ତମେ ଏମିତି ଇଏ କରିବ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ଏଇଆ ଗାଇଡଲାଇନ ଦବ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ଗାଇଡଲାଇନ ଅନୁସାରେ ସବୁ ହବ ଇଏ ହବ ଯଦି ତମେ ତାଙ୍କଠୁ ଲୋନ ଆଣୁଛ. So it was interesting to see that the major cause of the foreign exchange ହଠାତ୍ ଆମର ସେ କ୍ରାଇସିସ ଟା କାହିଁ ଆସିଲା ଜାଣିଛ 91 ରେ କାହିଁ ସେ କ୍ରାଇସିସ ଟା ଆସିଲା ତା ପୂର୍ବରୁ କାହିଁକି ଆସିଲାନି କାହିଁକି 91 ରେ ଆମର ଲିବରାଲାଇଜେସନ ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲାଇଜେସନ ହେଲା ଅନ୍ୟ ଦେଶ ଗୁଡାକରେ ତ 80s ରୁ ହେଇଗଲାଣି କି ଆମେ 2000 ରେ କାହିଁକି ହେଲାନି the reason being that 91 ରେ 90s ରେ ଗଲ୍ଫ war ଟା ଚାଲିଥିଲା. It was because of Gulf War ଆମର ଯୋଉ labor force ଥିଲେ ସେଇଠି they had to leave that reason ସେମାନେ foreign exchange ବେଶୀ ଆଣି ପାରିଲେନି and that is because it was one of the major reasons we had to actually implement this LPG जोटा ଆମେ कहू liberalization privatization and globalization. So you know Gulf War was one of the major reasons ଯାହା ଫଳରେ ଆମ ହାତରେ foreign exchange ଆସିଲାନି and we had to actually do away with it. And yesterday I may discuss college post 2000 period ray you know we made certain significant shift in the policies and there was this high level committee on diaspora which talked about you know there are about 20 million non resident Indians NRIs and people PIOs ଯେତିକି ତାଙ୍କର ମାନେ account ରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି and now we have started taking them as a lucrative asset not as a liability ଯେମିତି ମୁଁ କହିଲି Nehruvian times it was a liability because ଏଇ ଦେଶରେ ଏଇ problem ହେଲାଣି Indian government ଉପରେ ପୁଣି pressure ପଡିଲାଣି it was not able to do anything but today we think in terms of FDIs we think in terms of networking. So overseas investors you know normally ଗୋଟେ ଯେତେବେଳେ survey କରାଗଲା ଦେଖାଗଲା କି ଯେ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ compare କରୁଛୁ କି ଚାଇନା ର overseas Chinese ମାନେ ଯେତେବେଳେ 50% invest କଲେ ଆମେ ମାତ୍ର 5% କଲେ କାହିଁକି ଆମେ 5% କଲେ the reason being that ଆମର ଯୋଉ red tapeism ଆମର file bureaucratic process ଏତେ ଇଏ ଯେ they get frustrated they don't କିଏ ତା ଭିତରେ ପଶିବ limited fund ଅଛି ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଆରାମ ସେ ତାକୁ ଯଦି କିଏ ଏଇ ପାରନା ମୁଁ ଚାହୁଁଛି ରିଏଲି ମୋ ଗାଁ ପାଇଁ କିଛି କରିବି ମୁଁ ଇଏ ପାଇଁ କିଛି କରିବି ବଟ୍ କିଏ ସେ ପ୍ରୋସେସ ରେ ପଶି ଗୋଟେ ପରମିଟ ପାଇବା para ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ଏତେ ଇଏ ମୋ ପାଖେ ସମୟ କାହିଁ ମୁଁ କୋଉଠି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ଯିବି କି କୋଉଠି କାହା ହାତରେ ଗୁଡାକ ସବୁ କରିବି that is the case. So liberalization ପରେ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଆମେ କହୁ end of license raj permit raj सरला british raj ପରେ license raj ଆସିଲା and liberalization was you know liberation from that license raj. So that is the reason you know we believe that today semane ete deso muha heleni that is one of the reason they are actually you know looking towards their homeland as it used to be in the earlier times. So that was about you know that's the reason you know we selected this we started encouraging that we started celebrating Prabasi Bharatiya Divas because I think it is celebrated on 9th of January. 9th of January was chosen as a date because it was on that day Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa as a Prabasi. So we have called it the Prabasi Bharatiya Divas. So now we will take up the next theme that is diaspora in the cyberspace. Now I still have 30 minutes, so 25 minutes. So if I say what is the cyberspace, normally hame cyber space kaha ko kahiba. If you look into your materials, there is this book by Alvin Toffler named Future Shock. He, for the first time, used this word called cyberspace. And if you look at, I have given you the definition there in the slide. Cyberspace is actually a mental construct that a person generates from experiencing computer communication and information retrieval. So it is basically a collection of computer mediated experience for seeing something, for communicating, for interacting, for information retrieval. So right now I am in the cyberspace. The way you are hearing me, the way I'm interacting with you, it is completely generated by the computer. So it's actually, it takes us to a different dimension. So when you talk about this cyberspace, you will see that it's actually a new realm of space. Today, when I'm talking about this normally cyberspace is also referred to as the virtual community, because when you say space, it could be a fantasy, it could be lying between reality and something which is not a real thing, but you are transmitting messages online. It actually creates a new realm of life, because isn't it a very mystical thing? You are sitting somewhere else and we are interacting, I'm taking a class, you are able to send a mail within few seconds. It's like the secret that remains between you and the person. And people today, we are in an age where we have to do everything virtually. So be it dating, be it falling in love or falling out of love, everything is done on the virtual space. So we started calling it, a multi-dimensional space. Here the idea of space becomes important, because normally when we talk about community, it was this idea of territory, I told you, was one of the defining features of community. Now that today, when you talk about our class as a community, that okay, we all are sitting together here, space doesn't make any difference. तमे आज अमेरिका रे थिले भी ए जो क्लास टा अटेंड करि पारथांतो, मु घरे थाए कि ऑफिस रे थाए, मु दुनिया रे जोठी थिबी मु फोन टा धर के आरंभ कर देई परिबी. That is the idea. So एठी जेतरे हमें virtual community कथा कहूचे, we start segregating the idea of space from it. So you will see that there is, in this computer screen also, there is the illusion of space. There is this scholar called Sandy Stones, and she points out that cyberspace is described in a very literary fantasies, and it doesn't exist actually. So it's like a science fiction. If you remember, I don't know you watch Hollywood movies or not, but there was this movie called Matrix, which I think 90s ki 2000 bole asutula, and it was about the fight between the real space and cyberspace re kon hochi. Teno sei fiction ro e jo cyberspace kathata ame kohiche. And normally when you talk about the law, the physical laws of normal space, in a cyberspace re apply hoboni. Cyberspace re ame tele globalization katha ko ame kahu ki je the world has been reduced to a point, distance zero he jaichi, taku ei sense re kahuchi je the idea of connectivity is there. Space is curved, space ta pura zero he jauchi, space hi kichi rahuni, तमे जोठी भी थाओ, वी आर एबल टू इंटरैक्ट. आगुरु इंटरैक्ट करिया पे गोटे लोक को न फिजिकली गोटे स्पेस रे पहुंचिया को पडुथला, क्लासरूम को तुमको पहुंचिया को पड़िबो 9टा सुधा. दैट इज नॉट द केस. तमे जोठी थाई कि भी क्लास हेई पाउची. दैट इज द आइडिया ऑफ ए साइबर स्पेस. So when we talk about this virtual community, you will see that today we talk about interactive computer systems, and there we have discussions on this virtual community. As I told you, real community or virtual community re difference eta je ame territory bisare eti kohune. There is this scholar called Howard Ringgold. he published this idea of virtual community in the 90s, early 90s, and he was saying that how the increased access and use of internet has created a new world. And he defines virtual communities as social aggregations that emerge from the net when people enough carry on public discussions, or there is a feeling, there is a personal relationship that is going on in the cyberspace. It real space କଥା ଏବେ ପଡିନି, କିଛିଟା ଆମେ ଲୋକ ଅଛୁ, ଏବେ 5-7 ଜଣ ଆମେ ଅଛୁ, ଆମେ ମିଶିକି ଗୋଟେ ଡିସ୍କସନ କରୁଛୁ, ମୁଁ କିଛି କହୁଛି, ଆପଣ ମାନେ କିଛି କଣ୍ଟ୍ରିବ୍ୟୁଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, even we are able to see each other, ସେଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାଜିକାଲ ଜିନିଷ ଯୋଉଟା କି which was never imagined some 20-30 years ago। କି ହଁ ଟେଲିଫୋନ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସିଲା, ଆମର ବଡ ବଡ ଆମର କଣ ଟେଲିଫୋନ ର ମଜା ବୋଲି ଆମର ଓଡିଆରେ କେତେ ସବୁ ରାଇମ୍ସ ଆସିଗଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ you will be able to see somebody who is 100 miles away, who I have never seen physically. That is something that was phenomenal. And therefore space in cyberspace is predicated on knowledge, information, and the common belief and practices that space is now abstracted from physical space. If a physical space is located, it's an abstraction of physical space. So it's like today we talk about families who actually are on the cyberspace who interact. My husband doesn't stay with me. We have a vacation kind of a family. Whenever there is holiday or vacation, we meet. So normally I talk almost every day. It's like he's in the next room. It doesn't make any difference. So I'm used to that kind of a reality which I have accepted, which is a part of my life. ଏବେ ଯଦି ମୁଁ ଆପଣ ମାନଙ୍କୁ କହିବି କି ଯେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ବିନା କେତେ ଜଣ ମାନେ happily ଗୋଟେ ଦିଟା ଦିନ spend କରିପାରିବେ, how many of you can really do that? WhatsApp bina, Facebook bina, it's very difficult for your generation. For my generation maybe I can do because I belong to a previous generation, but for your generation it is like if ମୋ generation ମତେ କୁହାଯିବ କି ତୁ ପଙ୍ଖା electricity ବିନା ରହ, ମୋ ପାଇଁ difficult ହେଇଯିବ, ତମମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସେମିତି ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ଟା it's like a source of sustenance, because you are, it's like an umbilical cord to you, you are completely connected with that cyber world. So this creates a feeling of a sense of community online। ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ଏବେ diaspora community କଥା କହୁଛି, ସେଠି କଣ ନା ଗୁଜରାଟୀ ମାନେ ଏବେ ଡେଞ୍ଜର ରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, କି ଏବେ ତମେ ଯୋଉ नेपाली community ବିଷୟରେ କହିଲ, they will have their fundings କି ଆଚ୍ଛା ଏଠି ହଉଛି ସବୁ ଇଣ୍ଟରନେଟ ରେ ସେମାନେ କହିବେ ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ କ୍ରିଏଟ କରିଛୁ, this is a forum, we discuss issues, ଏମିତି ହେଲା ସେମିତି ହେଲା, ତମମାନେ କଣ ମତ ଦଉଛ ଦିଅ, ଗୋଟେ ପବ୍ଲିକ ପ୍ଲାଟଫର୍ମ, ତମ WhatsApp ଗ୍ରୁପ ଟା ଗୋଟେ ପବ୍ଲିକ ଫୋରମ ହେଇଗଲା ସେଠି। ଆଗରୁ ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ମାନେ ଯେମିତି ଖଟି କରୁଥିଲେ, ସପୋଜ ମୁଁ କହିବି ମୁଁ ଖଟି କରୁଛି, ଆମେ ଏବେ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲିଜ ରେ ବି ଆମେ ଏବେ WhatsApp ଗ୍ରୁପ କରିଦେଇଛେ, ଅଫିସ ଟାଇମ କିଏ ଯାଉଛି କି ଆଉ କୋଉଠି ଅଛି କି ସେଇଠି ଅଛି, we have a family WhatsApp group, we have all kinds of WhatsApp group। कि आज किए का घरे कौन रांधिला, तुम स्कूल फ्रेंड्स माने WhatsApp ग्रुप कलो, कि तुम कॉलेज फ्रेंड्स माने तुम क्लासमेट्स माने WhatsApp ग्रुप कले। एबे संतोष सर गोटे WhatsApp ग्रुप हमर करछंती, इग्नो मटेरियल एवरीडे क्लासेस से अपडेट्स दोछन, जो माने क्लास भी करना से कुछ हां सर तो भाई 4 or 5 दे देबे अपडेट्स, नो प्रॉब्लम। So that's the feeling, there is a public discussion forum on the cyberspace on collections of common beliefs and practices। किछिटा commonality रहिछि, किछिटा common beliefs और practices रहिछि जे purpose टा सेम। सपोज ए क्लास रे जो WhatsApp ग्रुप है ता पर्पस होछि information and knowledge would be disseminated to you। COVID time रे we cannot travel, there cannot be contact program, so sitting at your homes you will hear from your instructors। And there is this new definition of meet and face। Virtual communities are indeed social aggregations emerge from net। नेट रे ही तैयारी हेछि, हम लाइफ टा बे इंटरनेट रे ही पूरा पूरी जड़ित। माने फॉर मी अ रियल वर्ल्ड डजंट एग्जिस्ट टुडे, माने and it's true for most of the people। if you will see that you know the real world doesn't exist because there is this internet has this capability that I may not miss the real world। when I'm talking to you, it's on a online face to face, this is this face to face thing again coming back to me। And here Raingold says that when we argue about sorry, it's not rainbow. When Mrs. Watson says that when we talk about this virtual community, he finds the phrase virtual, built problematic. He says that virtual community for groups of people interacting with each other online makes it seem as if the community is not actually community, but it's a real community. ताको virtual काहे कहबा हमें तो ये किसी fake करूने किसी real करूने, he has a problem with this term virtual. And then he also admits that communities online are different from communities offline. There is a difference, but let's not call it virtual. Then Neil Postman's critique of the notion of virtual community, which is centered on the notion that online groups enable separation of the real from the virtual. So Postman here he uses the term community within online context, because online groups they do not contain the stake that exists in real. Se jo online scenario re to jaha bhi hochi seta real na, that's the reason he says that it's not a virtual thing. And then you talk about uh, when we take the discussion on virtual community further, you will see that uh, Watson was a bit, optimistic about virtual communities and the way it can actually, bring on a new power relation when it comes to, revitalization of democracy. So he regarded community as it was a very nostalgic thing for them. कि community अब नहीं, community जब agru माने it could hold on to people and stick to a decision से जिनसे टाउ हे पारुनी. So personal, social, political, economic सब प्रकार obligations it's a part of the community life. And Postman objected to the use of community while describing online groups, because he believed that these discursive formations cannot significantly change my material life. Online रे कौन किस समय मैं discuss करी कौन कथा करी मो real life टा कौन change हो जाउची. तेनु फर्स्ट फेज रे से कहले कि जे वर्चुअल हवा कथा नहीं, सेकंड फेज रे इट वाज सेड कि कम्युनिटी कांसेप्ट आईटी ठीक से लागू है. There is some problem with it, and that is how you take up this debate on virtual community further. Please mute your microphones. So you will see that Postman also uses it in a very nostalgic way. He says that when we talk about live online connected diasporic digital communities, the term community in relationship to online groups of diasporics is applicable, because diaspora case re for them this is the real तांको पे आउ से केबे इंडिया आसी परिबे कि आउ पड़े जाई परिबे, that is different thing. But for themselves, when participants try to, they are in a distant place and they are trying to connect with each other, that is the reality for them. And it is a fact that social relations and interpersonal exchanges within virtual communities cannot escape this connection with the kind of material practices that we have. एमती नहीं कि बहुत डायनामिक्स रहुची on the concepts of community and space and the idea of being virtual or real. आ गोटे कथा आपण माने देखिबे कि जे पोस्ट ग्लोबलाइज्ड एज रे when we start debating about territory कि कुआगला कि जे नाइ टेरिटोरी टा इम्पोर्टेंट नाही, जोठी भी बसी गोटे कम्युनिटी हे परछि, जोठी की बसी कि गोटे क्लासरूम हे परछि, you people are at different parts of the state and still we are taking a class. Methodologically it was a great challenge. आपने माने research methodology पढ़ी थिबे. So whenever you talk about sampling techniques की hypothesis एटा सब थिबो, you might have read. सेतिर देखिथिबे कि जे when you say okay my sample size कोन हबो, तेनु मु आपन पचारिबे sample size यूनिवर्स टा कोन माने टोटल सोसाइटी जोटा को आपन स्टडी करिवे ता पॉपुलेशन टा कोन ना ता पॉपुलेशन एया से अनुसार एते कि नियंत्र. तेनु आपण हाइपोथेसिस टा आपनकर एमती प्रकार गोटे सोशल सिचुएशन रहिछि, एई सिचुएशन रु एई प्रकार गोटे हाइपोथेसिस आपण डिराइव करंतु, सेतरे ना हाइपोथेसिस रखंतु, अल्टरनेटिव हाइपोथेसिस एया रखंतु. सो हमर मेथोडोलॉजी फील्ड को जिबी डेटा कलेक्ट करिबी कोन करिबी everything is based on certain territorial limits. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ online community କଥା କହୁଛେ, କୋ society କଥା କହୁଛେ, suppose I am talking about this diasporic community ଯୋଉମାନେ କି transnationally କୋ ଦେଶରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ମୁଁ କାହାର situation କାହାର scenario ନେଇକି ମୁଁ ମୋର ଇଏ frame କରିବି, ମୋ sampling frame କରିବି, ମୋର field କଣ ହବ, ମୋ territory କଣ ହବ. So there is a big question mark to that कि how am I going to look at this entire thing. ये जो ग्लोबलाइजेशन as an approach और as an perspective आसिला परे एटा खाली एयर नुहे कि जे हमें डायस्पोरा कम्युनिटी टाकू itself गोटे चेंज आसीची, but at the same time our disciplines are also reorienting themselves. There is this scholar called Scalt has actually talked about these methodological problems because of this post globalization, transnational quality of knowledge and quality of communities. Now, if you talk about this Indian digital diaspora, you will see that they have been fortunate enough to seize the opportunity globally to form virtual communities. Still, then we are using the term virtual communities, and they have certain cultural practices which are reproduced. They have certain memories, certain historical memories, certain collective memories which are passed on because of this virtual communities. Suppose ଗୋଟେ ପିଲା ଯିଏ ଟ୍ରିନିଡାଡରେ ବଡ ହେଇଛି, ତା ancestors Indians ଥିଲେ, ତା ପାଖେ ଆଉ କିଛି ତାର କିଛି ଆଇଡିଆ ନାହିଁ, ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ଥ୍ରୁରୁ ସେ ତାର ରୁଟ୍ସ ଚେସ୍ କରିପାରିବ. ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ବିରାଟ ବଡ ଭିଜୁଆଲ ମିଡିୟମ ବି ସେଟା ଦଉଛି, ଯୋଉଟା କି ଚେଞ୍ଜେସ୍ ମାଇ ଏଣ୍ଟାୟାର ୱାର୍ଲଡ ଭ୍ୟୁ, ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ଲାଇଫ ଚେଞ୍ଜିଂ ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ମୋ ପାଇଁ. ଆପଣ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଫର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦ୍ୟାଟ ମୁଭି ବାହୁବଲି, ଯେତେ ତାର ଫାଇଟ୍ ସିନ୍ସ ଅଛି କି ଯେତେ ଯୋଉ ମ୍ୟାଜେଷ୍ଟିକ ସବୁ ଫରେଷ୍ଟ ସିନ୍ସ ଅଛି, ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଅଲ୍ କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟରାଇଜ୍ଡ. କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟର ଗ୍ରାଫିକ୍ସ ରେ ସେଟାକୁ ସବୁ ଇଟ୍ ହାଜ बीन क्रिएटेड. बट अगेन से जो एक्सपीरियंस सेटा दउची सेटा रियल की अनरियल, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग. बट सेटा होची साइबर स्पेस रो कथा. The debate of cyberspace is all about that. So when we talk about revisiting any society, सेटा आहुरी strengthen करि दउची. मु एक्चुअली एतरे मु कहूची कि जे को ये कथा सोसाइटी कथा आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट साइबर स्पेस रे सब जाक गोटे डिफरेंट फॉर्म नै जाउची. And when you talk about the coming back to the diaspora community, when you talk about the future generation, you will see that these digital diaspora communities से गोटे होम बोली से माने भाबुछंती एबे. They believe जोटा कि गोटे पॉइंट रे नॉन एक्जिस्टेंट हे जाई थांता, बट थैंक्स टू द मीडिया, जेमति कि बेनेडिक्ट एंडरसन कहले जे इमेजिन कम्युनिटी जोटा कि हेथिला से कम्युनिटी को गोटे एज अ नेशन तमे इमेजिन करि पारथिलो बिकॉज़ ऑफ प्रिंट मीडिया. बिकॉज़ ब्रिटिशर जेतरे आसीथिले during the pre modern age, amar India बोली कांसेप्ट नथिला. It was not known to us. आमे हम गां जानिथिले, आमे लोकालिटी जानिथिले कि एट बेस्ट आमे जानिथिले आमे ओडिया, आमे ओडिसा इंडिया टा कोन. बट धीरे धीरे जेतरे पेपर आसिला, पेपर पब्लिश हला, पैम्पलेट्स पब्लिश हला, देरे इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस प्रमोट करथला, ई सब आमे गोटे सेंस आसिला कि अच्छा अच्छा देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड दिस नेशन, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड दिस कम्युनिटी. तो एबे ए जो प्रिंट मीडिया ठारू भी आहुरी गोटे विराट बड़ा मैजेस्टिक एक्सपीरियंस दोची ए जो विजुअल मीडिया, which has been possible because of these internet computer generated images. माने entire our idea change हो जाउ. You want to know something, everything is available on the internet. So the scholar Amit Rai argues that communities online which are created by immigrants and diasporic populations reproduce the same tensions and ideologies that are visible within the diasporic community. On ho ki offline ho, से किछि ये बाहर को ना, he doesn't see that they are oppositional. सेटा को से एका प्रकार communities खाली दीटा different platform रे अछंती. And he is also critical about the possibility that these spaces can inaugurate liberatory practices of this sort. Because contrary to that, he believes that अधिका कोन इंटरनेट कर परिबो, जो रिएक्शनरी पॉलिटिक्स जोटा ग्राउंड लेवल रे होचे, you see that on the virtual media. What else do you think that it is? Some people completely dismiss this idea of virtual communities. And then when you talk about we'll just take a, we just have 5 minutes left. We'll take up very briefly in 2 minutes an overview of literature on Indian digital diaspora. And you will see that you know when you talk about India and the cyberspace that has connected these diasporic community, the technology, the IT technology has been one of the most influential designs behind it. Be it in terms of it's not only this technology has brought people, it has both virtually and both on the online platform. So today we have certain perspectives from Vinay Lal, who talks about for internet elites whose mobility in cyberspace furnishes them with opportunities to work within the world of international finance and business. ମାନେ ଘରେ just ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟର ଦରକାର, ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟର ବେସିସ୍ ରେ you can stock market ମୁଁ ଦେଖିକି ମୁଁ ଘରେ ବସି ବସି I can earn if I just get certain skills with me. So like the elites of the first world, they are beginning to live in time and space poses no barrier to them. ଏବେ ଗୋଟେ ଗାଁରେ ବି ବସିକି ମୁଁ ସେତିକି ପଇସା ରୋଜଗାର କରିପାରିବି. So that is this idea of this time space compression. Compress ହେଇଯାଇଛି time space ଏଠି matter କରୁନି ମୁଁ କୋଉଠି ଅଛି, କୋଉ society ରେ ଅଛି. ହୁଏତ ଆମେ ଏମିତି କହୁ କି ମୁଁ କାହିଁକି ଗୋଟେ ଏମିତି ଜାଗାରେ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଲି, ହୁଏତ ମୁଁ ଆମେରିକାରେ ଥିଲେ ଆଜି ଏଇଆ କରିଥାନ୍ତି. That is not the case. This thing has been what you get transformed because of the time space compression thing. Now coming to this idea of nationalism. Now, as I told you earlier, we have moved on to a phase of transnationalism. ଯୋଉଥିରେ କି ଆଉ boundaries and imagining a community ତ ରହୁଛି, but at the same time ଗୋଟେ transnational phase ରେ ସେ ଯୋଉ community ର manifestations ଟା ଆସି ସାରିଛି, and it has been possible because of the modern gadgets and the side city technology. So we'll stop the discussion here. Uh, for any other doubts or questions, we just have a few minutes. You can start it up.
So, dear learners, speak something. Dear learners, is audible to all of you? So say
Yes, sir.
something.
Yes, sir. It's audible. Uh, just
So
like to
say something
thank
about the
ma'am
class,
that
or I mean,
the class been interesting, ma'am. Just one doubt clarification.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
ma'am,
okay,
you're
you
talking
ask
about
first.
the virtual community. So, due
Mm-hmm.
to the virtual community, you mean to say that I mean the concept of territory has been redefined. It has been now.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. So, when you are talking about, community as a definition, if you go back to your basics of sociology, it has certain states like face-to-face interaction, or, the idea of a shared feeling, we feeling, and territory, localized territory. So that idea of territory has been redefined. Today, when I say that I am an Indian, I may not be, residing in India, or I have my family Indians are my family. So there can be Indians in Australia, there can be Indians in America. So my family roots are everywhere. I have my wife is an Australian Indian, and my children are now, they have migrated to the US and they are studying there. My daughter-in-law is a Indian who was born and brought up in the Africas. So that's this idea of family. So the family itself has also become a transnational entity. So family is one of the smallest units of communities. When that is also, it doesn't because by family we used to confuse between family and a household. Family hele gote ghar heithibo, there has to be a house, and house is a particular location. Today that idea has also been fragmented and fractured because of this idea of transnationalism. So that's what this idea of virtual community relates to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other question? Chalo, anyway, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, students. I mean, by this, today we will conclude today's session. Tomorrow, same day, we will join again. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.